But we know it starts. So welcome back to our Tehilim series. I'm very excited and I hope you enjoyed your Pesach. Some of you I already spoke with, so I know. How was yours?
Je crois qu'elle est devant. Tu lui envoies?
C'est quoi le code?
251.
And I'm going to ask you for one of your phones because I'm recording with my phone just to go on the chat to see the. Yeah. Thank you, Maïla. Okay. So before we start reading, hey, Lauren. We're just starting now.
I got confused with tomorrow. Tomorrow is 10, no?
Yeah, tomorrow is 10.
C'est quoi tomorrow?
Sarah Mishpacha. Intimacy tomorrow. The last classes. So how are you doing? Good?
Good.
Well,
I just didn't see that now I changed, I moved to another house. And now it's far.
Nice, right? You're hard.
It's
Okay.
Ouais, mais c'est genre 20 minutes, c'est 9 jours.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. So we're going to start today. We're going to learn Perek Zayin, even though we have been on Perek 8. We're going back. I don't know how, I didn't arrange the things well, but I wanted to go into that. And I forgot my glasses, so please forgive me for reading with an extension. But we're going to start. We're going to dedicate that class for the refuah shelema of two people, more than two, but two people in particular who are the sister and the brother of one of my dear friends, Yemiyahu ben Devorah and Rachel ben Devorah, who are getting a surgery. It happened that two siblings are getting the surgery the same day, but it has nothing to do. And they should have Besorat Tovat and a refuah shelema, Bekarov Begrat Hashem, also for the husband of one of my friends, Yosef Ishai ben Daniel Miriam, and for all the cholim of Am Yisrael, Refuat HaNefesh and Refuat HaGuf, Begrat Hashem, the protection of our soldiers who have entered Rafia, and the refuah shelema of Eleni Orna Batren Chana, Raphael Chaimir ben Simach Hasha, and of course
Anaël bat Sophie Rivka.
Anaël bat Sophie Rivka. Besorat Tovat ben. Okay, so I said going to try to read something. Lamnat Se'ar Mizmor le David Yaranecha Adonai b'yam tzara Isagevecha Hashem Eloi Yaakov. Yishlach Ezrecha mikodesh umitzion Yisaadecha. Iskor kol minchotecha ve'olatecha yidash nesela. Yiten lecha chilvavecha v'chol atzatcha imale. Neranena bishwatecha u'Hashem Eloheinu nidgol. Imale Adonai kol mishalotecha. Ata yadati ki yoshera Adonai meshicho. Yaranehu mishme kodsho bigvorot yesha yemino. Ele varechev ele basusim va'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hema kor'u v'nafalu va'anachnu kamnu v'nitodat Adonai oshera hameler yaranenu. Okay, so I'm going to let you read the Perek in English, Perek Zayin. And we're going to start today with our first, when we study a Perek, a chapter of the Tehilim, there are so many lessons. I usually pick two. I think this time we have a little bit more than two. We have three, if I'm not wrong. I sent you the pictures this morning on the chat. So we're going to dig into that. And the first part is going to be on how can I be grateful in challenging times? And I think it's very apropos because we are going through a very challenging time in the history of Israel. I even want to say that it's actually almost like a normal time, and that the times before that, which is from 1948 up to 2023, so for 75 years, we really have been through a truly abnormal situation. Jews around the world had not only a country, but were citizens of other nations, which was a big time in the history. It has never happened before. And we lived in peace. We were accepted. It was okay to be a Jew almost everywhere in the world. It's crazy when we think about it. Those 75 years have been a really privileged moment in time for the Jewish people in history. Now we're going back to whatever happened before that, pogroms, anti-Semitism, open anti-Semitism that we didn't really feel that much before. The only thing is that now, obviously, like we have speakers and media, social media that make it like unbearable. But when you read and when you learn about Jewish history, you see that that was the case, and that has been the case all over history. So I want to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for those 75 years of peace and serenity for all our nation, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bring it back very fast. With the coming of Mashiach also, Bezrat Hashem. But we're going to see, how can I be grateful in challenging times? So anybody would like to read in English the Perek Zayin? Allez.
To the conductor, to write in the youth a song of David. 21. Oh, just I will thank the Lord with all my heart. I will tell all your wonders. I will rejoice and exalt with you. I will sing praises to your most high name. When my enemies draw backward, they stumble and are destroyed from before you. For you have performed my judgment and my cause. You sat on the throne, O judge of righteousness. You rebuked nations. You destroyed a wicked man. You erased their name forever and ever. The enemy has been destroyed. Swords exist forever, and you have uprooted the cities. Their remembrance is lost. But the Lord shall sit forever. He has established his throne for judgment, but he judges the world with righteousness, kingdoms with equity. And the Lord shall be a fortress for the crushed, a fortress for times of distress. And those who know your name shall trust in you, for you have not forsaken those who seek you, O Lord. Sing praises to the Lord who dwells in Zion. Relate his deeds among the peoples.
Thank you. So first, I also want to dedicate that class, Leilui Nishmat Ella Bat Matityahu, Ella Adler, who left this world after a very bad accident. And I was there yesterday at the Levaya, and it was heartbreaking to see the family. One cannot imagine, and one should not be going through the loss of a child. It is very difficult. A 15-year-old, you could hear her aunt, her grandma, her best friend speaking about her. I didn't know this girl, but she was, they say, like she was a diamond. She was a precious little girl with so much to achieve, and yet she was taken away. And it's very, very difficult. It was beautiful to see. I think there was more than 1,000 people in the temple. Beit Shalom, I'm not sure the name, on 41st Street, a Reform temple over there. It was really heartwarming to see the support for this family, for the Adler family. And she grew up in Lerman. So many people also from Lerman were there that had kids the same age as her. And voila. So why am I bringing that in? First, because I want to dedicate all my classes this week, this month, and the following Bezrat Hashem Leilui Nishmata. But also because something happened to David HaMelech, something not similar, but he also lost a child. And actually, when we open that perek, that chapter, we see Odeh Hashem bechol libi, asapera kol nifleotecha. I will thank Hashem with all my heart, right? I will thank Hashem with all my heart. I will tell all of your wonders. So we can think, wow, David HaMelech, he's the king of Israel. He probably had a beautiful life, right, as the king of Israel. So of course, it's easy when you have a beautiful life, when you are in those 75 years of peace as we were, to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem, thank you. Thank you for being in good health. Thank you for giving me kids who are in good health. Thank you for my legs. Thank you for my feet that enable me to walk, to do some treadmill in the morning, to walk to different places, or to sit in my car, as we were saying, to go to different places. Thank you for my arms. Thank you for my mind. Thank you for my eyes. Thank you for my nose. Thank you for making everything work in my body. Thank you, thank you, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But because we need to be conscious of that in order to thank Hashem, right? We don't do it all day long. Well, somehow we do it. When we do a bracha, we acknowledge. For instance, I do a bracha on my. By the way, it's not from Starbucks. It's the cup is from Starbucks, but I make them at home. But when I'm going to drink my smoothie in the morning, I'm going to say Shehakol niya bidvaro. I thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I acknowledge you create everything. Shehakol niya bidvaro, and you created my smoothie. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm thanking you, right? I'm enjoying something. I'm thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm even going to the restroom. I'm going to say Asher Yatzar when I go out. Why? Because it's a ness. It's a miracle. Has anybody ever had any UTI, right? You have a urinary, God forbid, someone has a urinary tract infection, and then whenever it goes back to normal, you're like, Mamma mia, thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. It's so painful. And that's just a little infection of the urinary tract. Well, Hashem, it's nothing. Someone already had an indigestion. Someone already had diarrhea. Someone already had constipation. When there is something that doesn't work, it seems like the end of the world, right? So when we go to the restroom, we acknowledge there are some cavities that are supposed to open and close at the right moment. Thank you, Hashem, for making them open and close at the right moment. Thank you to make that digestive system work properly, right? And evacuate properly all the toxins and all the things that are not necessary to my health. Wow, do we realize? So yeah, obviously, one who follows the laws of Torah, the mitzvot, with intention, should be able to say, I thank Hashem with all my heart. Even when you read the Birkat HaShachar, as we studied it at the very beginning of the year, the morning blessings, right? We say, thank you, Hashem, for like opening my eyes, for giving me the ability to make a distinction between night and day, etc., right? But when things are complicated, when it's difficult to find a husband, when it's difficult to become pregnant, when it's difficult to keep the pregnancy, when it's difficult to give birth, do we say thank you, Hashem? Thank you, Hashem, for making it tough for me. No, not really. I'm sorry. Right? I prefer it the other way. Can you make it nice again? Right? And yet, even in this challenging time, we should be thanking Hashem, because somehow we have no idea why. No idea why. But even in this challenging time, even in this adversity, we trust that Hashem is making the right choice for us. I was listening yesterday, because we cannot listen to music right now, it's the Omer. So in my car, when I'm with my kids, we listen to stories, right? So there is this, if you like it in French, I'm sorry, but there is this Mora Rivka, and there is Mora Esther in English, and other Morot who read beautiful stories for kids on YouTube. So they open a book and they read the story. And when you're driving, instead of listening to music, the kids listen to a story, right? And you cannot read a story. So it's a nice moment to share. And she was telling the story of Rabbi Akiva. So, right now we are in the period of the Omer, and why can't we listen to music? Because we are mourning the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who deceased after an epidemic during that period of time, right? Before Lag BaOmer. It stopped on Lag BaOmer. So she's telling the story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was the greatest Rav ever existed, right? He was living in the times of 2,000 years ago. And he would always say, like, all Hashem does is for the good. There is nothing that Hashem does that is not for the good, right? And he tells a story that one day he goes to travel. And at that time, there was no alarm clock. So he takes a rooster with him in order to wake him up in the morning, right? There is no light or flashlight. So he takes a candle in order to be able to read and study Torah at night. And there is no Tesla. So he takes a donkey to walk, right? And to transport his stuff. And he goes from a village to another, and he gets into a village and he sees lights and he says, okay, it's very cold outside. I'm going to ask if I can sleep by those people. He knocks at the door of different houses and nobody wants to allow him in. So he says, okay, Hashem, everything is for the good. I'm going to sleep in the forest. It's okay. No problem. But in the forest at that time, there were wolves, there were bears, there was a lot of bad, of the wild animals, right? And it was dangerous. There were also a lot of robbers and other things. So he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, listen, I trust you. I know that if you put me in a situation, it's for the good. So I'm going to study Torah now. He takes his donkey. The donkey is next to him. He lights up his candle. He puts the rooster, and he starts learning Torah. And suddenly, like a big wind arrives and blows out the candle. No more candle. Everything Hashem does is for the good. It's okay. I don't have a candle. Hashem wanted me to sleep. He goes to sleep in the morning. He wakes up. No more donkey. It went away. It went away, and the rooster got eaten by a wild animal. He sees that he could have been destroyed. Like, oh my God, everything that I took for the rest of my journey. How am I going to do? He said, no. Everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is for the good. He goes back. He wakes up. He goes back to walk to the village, and he sees that the village has been totally destroyed during the night. And then he realized, oh, Hashem actually made a nest for me. Had my candle been lit, the robbers or the terrorists of October 7th would have seen me, right? They didn't notice me because my candle got blown out. My rooster would have like that. They would have known that I was there. So he got bitten by a wild beast because of that. So I was saved, and my donkey would have been very noticeable also. So that's why he escaped. Baruch Hashem, everything is for the good, and Hashem, thank you with all my heart. We can always choose to see life like that. Now, yesterday at Ela's Levaya, the rabbi, so I think the man rabbi, said a beautiful speech. And at the end, he said something that maybe for many people, it was very hard to hear. And he said, even in this moment, we have to thank Hashem. Thank Hashem even for what happened. How do you want to thank Hashem for what happened? Right? how can I be grateful in challenging times? Let's dig inside. So the Midrash on this perek tells us, the Midrash says that when at the opening of the, so I don't have the, it says Almut Laben, right? Almut Laben, what does it mean? It means on the death of a son. And this is a reference to the first son that Bathsheba, the wife of David, had with David. This baby, when he was born very sick, very ill, right? And he hovered between life and death for a week. During that week, it says in the book of Shmuel that David HaMelech was inconsolable. He was crying all day. He refused to eat. He refused to talk. He was praying continuously, day and night. Day and night, he was crying, begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu to save his son. But from the moment the son was dead, because he died after a week, he wasn't sad anymore. He got up, says the Midrash, showered, changed clothes, and said, when there was a chance for me to reverse the divine judgment, I did everything that I could to keep the baby alive. Now that the baby is dead, there is nothing I can do. I can only say Baruch Dayan HaEmet and thank Hashem for everything that I do have, instead of continuing to mourn my loss. Right? That's David HaMelech. In this particular Tehilim that we're reading this week, and it's very interesting because I didn't plan on reading it this week after attending the Levaya yesterday, but it makes me think about it. Those parents yesterday, they were walking behind the coffin of their daughter, and I don't even know how the mom was walking. I don't know. She was held by an aunt on one side, and I don't know who was on her other side. And her husband was on top of her, and he was sobbing. It was very, very difficult to witness, and everybody you had 1,000 people really like crying, 1,000 people crying inside, outside of their body. But it was very, how can we say thank you, right? So the first thing that David HaMelech is teaching us is that each neshama has a mission, and we do not know what it is, right? I want to bring that concept to you. I was speaking with my kids yesterday night about that because they asked me like during dinner, like, so what did you do today? You had a good day? I said, yeah, Baruch Hashem, I had a good day. It started in a very difficult emotion, let's say, like with a difficult, uncomfortable emotion. And they asked me why. And I said, because I attended this, and they didn't know about this, the girl, they didn't know the story. So I told them about it. And so we spoke about the life mission. And I said, as difficult as it is, we are not conscious today of that. And the parents of Ella are not conscious of that. But their neshama, right? Their soul, before coming into this world, they accepted to go through that challenge. Why? It's very complicated. As a soul, we are not in the time, so we can see what's going to happen, right? As a soul, we know that there are certain things that we need to repair, to fix. It's called a tikkun. There is a tikkun to do. Each soul is responsible for a certain repair, right? We're only here to repair something specific, okay? As a soul, in the Shamayim, before entering that world and that goof, that physicality, right? We have that consciousness. And Hashem gives us the opportunity to choose. listen, in order to repair that, I don't know what it is, whatever they had to repair, right? You have different options. You can go there, you can go there, you can go there. You can be incarnated, embodied into this person, into this person, into this person. This person is going to go through that. This person is going to go through that. This person is going to go through that. Which one do you want to get in? You choose. Why do you choose? You choose because you know that this life is going to help you achieve your goal, your mission in life.
So what it means that each of the people that you are allowed to take will lead you to a specific mission.
You have your mission, but you're going, in order to achieve that destination, you have different ways to go. You know, we always say, the Balatanya teaches us that in order to get to a destination, you have the long path that is short and the short path that is long. What does it mean? It means that sometimes we feel, I'm going to take the short path. But really, in order to get to your destination, you're going to have to repeat that short path again and again and again and again. And that's how in our life, we always end up being in front of the same challenges, same type of challenges. Did you notice that in your life? That you keep on having the same type of situation that pop up? And how are you going to react? Are you reacting the same way each time or not? Did you notice that? Not really? Sometimes when we are very young, it's difficult to have the distance to notice. But when you arrive at a certain age, and by certain age, I mean the very tender age of 40 years old, just because you've been through a lot already, you've been through 20 years of adulthood, right? Life as an adult, you have the ability to take a little bit distance. You also receive another part of your neshama that is more like a part that enables you to synthesize and to understand, to have more bina. But many times, for instance, you're going to tell me, I always get mad for this kind of reason. That's a challenge. Why? Because every time, because you didn't manage yet to overcome this anger. So what happens? You're giving the challenge again and again and again. That's the short way long, because at the end, it's a short way, right? You get tested very often, but it's long because it's not really helping you to grow to that person that you really need to achieve. Some people, some neshamat will choose, you know what? I can go through that, but I can also go straight. I can also decide to take the long way that is short somehow. It's true for many years. I'm not going to be tested, but that test that I'm going to have, it's going to make me achieve what I was supposed to achieve in this world. Right? So what does it mean? It means that as a neshama, and if you're interested in that, I can recommend some books or some classes on that, because I'm not a specialist at all. I just learned because I think it's very important for us to understand why we are in this world. As a neshama, we chose and we accepted. We accepted to be married to that person. We accepted not to be married. We accepted to have to go through the loss of children, whether they are in the womb, as it happened to many women, or they are not. Whether they, it doesn't mean that it's not painful. It means that somehow it was planned like that. It was meant to be like that. And it is yet for the good. And it's not for the good of that person, obviously. But through that loss, in this family, they are going to achieve something that would not have been had they not lost that baby, that girl. I want to speak about Heleni Orna, okay, who was Leni Orna when she drowned. this little girl who's turning 2 years old or 3 years old, 3, on the 15th, tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, that she should have a miracle. This girl, this little neshama, she was sent here to help hundreds of Jews in Florida and outside of Florida, because I taught in Colombia, and I'm telling you, people from New York and from Argentina and from Venezuela and Panama were davening and praying for her already. So, right? Plus in Israel, because their parents are Israeli. So imagine how many hundreds of Jews did teshuvah or took something upon them. I personally know 3 ladies who decided to take on Shabbat. Another lady who decided to put on the tights. She was already religious. She decided to put on the tights for her. Other people who decided to read Tehilim, to give tzedakah, to do afrashat challah they had never done. Right? I'm going to tell you something. Maybe this neshama, who was the catalyst for this movement of teshuvah, can be one day, Bezrat Hashem, or could have been a big rebbetzin who would influence, after many, many, many years, people to do teshuvah, right? Or maybe this neshama decided to act earlier in her life, right? At 2 years old, she was able to bring so much pain. It's not her, but her situation was able to bring so much pain that for the zechut of her neshama, for her, it's not for anyone else that we did those efforts, that we read extra Tehilim, that we cry. It's for her and for her mom and for her dad. That's for sure, for the pain of those parents, because it's unbearable. It's unbearable. Not saying that it's bearable. It is unbearable. And we should be shocked and we should be pained, not justifying, legitimating. I'm just explaining the backstage, right? But this neshama, when she entered that body 3 years ago, she knew that she will have this impact in 2024, in 5784. Because for some reason, Hashem needed us all, right, to wake up in 5784 and not when she was going to be 20 years old. She could have been a shlucha at 20 years old and inspire women, right? No, it's now. We need now, all of us who are in contact with this news, to do something, to act, to move.
How does that apply to Ella's family? Like, how can you take that same concept?
It's exactly the same for some reason. For some reason, the fact that someone is going through this is going to affect the rest of the family. Now it can be in a positive way as in a very negative way, and there will be damages, emotional and pain and sufferance. So I lost we lost one of our cousins when she was 18 years old. Yannick and I, we were 11 and 13 years old, and she died in a car accident at 18 years old, right? My aunt will never, ever heal from that. It's a pain. As a mother, she has a potential. She was a potential. She could have been married. She could have had kids. She could have had a job. She could have been happy. She could have done so many things in her life, but she was taken at 18 years old, right? My other cousin, her little sister, for many years, suffered that pain and that anger within her. She had probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years, 20 years, I don't know how many years of therapy, right? She's an artist and she healed herself, but that's a part of her that will never heal. She lost one part of herself. Your sister is a part of yourself, right? So there are things that you can never change, but because they went through that, the rest of their life was not the same, right? Because I'm going to give you another example. I have a friend of mine who is from Agadir in Morocco. And in the 50s or something like that, they suffered a huge earthquake. And her father lost all his family. No, sorry, his parents. And he was the oldest of a family of 7 kids. At 8 years old, he had to be the father of other kids, or at 12 years old, I don't remember exactly, but he was not even bar mitzvah. All his life, and he passed away last year, all his life, he took care not only of his own kids, but his siblings. This changed his life. Whenever you have such a shock in a family, it impacts, it presses, it compresses. And why does it compresses? In order to extract, when you do that on an olive, press the olive, what happens? You get oil that goes out. You express the oil of the olive. What do you do with oil? With oil, you light a fire, a lamp, a candle. Sometimes, and that's how the world is made, in order for us to be lit, to let our light shine, we go through moments individually and as a nation, because we started the class with that, of compressing and release, compressing and release as a nation. That was our life. Am Israel, every generation, right? We sang it 4 weeks ago, and we were reading the Haggadah, right? אלא שבכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו לכלותנו, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם. Every generation, they will raise to destroy us, but Hashem will save us from their hands. It's like that. It's like that individually, it's like that as a nation. What can we do? We can thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we can also be a light without needing to be expressed. It's very important to realize that in our, we can, like I'm going to give you like a very personal thought. It's not in the Torah or anything. It's my personal point of view. I was the first one to be born in France, in the metropolitan France, at least, because my father was born in Algeria, right? Which was French, of course, but still. And I left to raise my family and build my family in America. Why? Because I thought 20 years ago that France will not be a welcoming place for my kids. And that I don't want to raise my kids in a place where they're not going to be proud to be a Jew. I wanted them to be able to be proud Jews. And in Paris, I felt the anti-Semitism, and I didn't want them to, and I thought really it's going to be dramatic in France. I don't want to raise my kids in France. So I went to America. And honestly, like today, besides Miami, when you look at America, it's not good to be a Jew. I have a lot of friends in New York. I guess like a lot of you come from Manhattan. It's not the same Manhattan that it used to, right? Students. Today I have one of my boys who's turning 18 soon. And I'm like, where am I going to send him? Where in the US am I going to send him? I don't want him to go there. So I'm going to send him to Israel, right? Because Israel is our country. And we feel safer in Israel than we are anywhere. And Baruch Hashem, we're the first generation who suffer this type of anti-Semitism, generalized, globalized, and we have the opportunity to have Eretz Israel. We're so lucky, right? We're so lucky, because where would they go? Yesterday I was speaking with a friend of mine from Roma, and she's a guide over there. And she told me, like, it's very tough for Israeli Jews right now, as weird as it is, but it's very tough for Israeli Jews right now, for Italian Jews right now. She says, but I know that we have Israel. Like in the past, they didn't have anywhere to hide, anywhere to flee to, right? Now we have Israel, Baruch Hashem. And I told my husband, I want us to invest in Israel because I don't want to be that Jew who thinks, it's never going to happen to us. We are in a society that has human rights, that this, that. No, you know what? It's true. I love Miami. I love my life in the United States, Baruch Hashem. But tomorrow, I might be pushed like anywhere else. And I want to have something in Israel because this is our only way out, right? That's my personal thought. But many, many of us have died in the past because we trusted the other nations so much to accept us and to have tolerance for us, which they didn't have. So anyways, we're a little far from the Tehilim, but just wanted to try to use the Tehilim today, since it happened today that we are reading this one, to say, okay, the Neshama has a life mission and we do not know what it is, right? It's difficult. It's difficult, but it helps also to accept somehow. Viktor Frankl, have you ever heard about him? He's look him up on Google. He's a very famous psychologist and sociologist who was living in Europe, Eastern Europe, before the Second World War. He went through the camps, and while he was in the camps, he lost everybody else, but he managed to survive because he found a meaning in this. He said, there is a reason why I'm here. I'm going through this, but I'm going to survive and I'm going to continue to live my life and to tell the world what happened and this and that. He found a meaning through that. He developed a theory that is called the logotherapy, giving a meaning to your life. And he helped hundreds of thousands of people go through challenges, loss, mourning, you name it, adversity, by giving it a reason. There is a reason to your suffering. It's not just vain. The fact to have a reason through suffering helps us to accept it and to go through it. When you give a person who has lost, maybe not right now, but when he's in that stage of mourning that he wants to understand, and you introduce the concepts of the Neshama, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of his plan, of the bigger picture in life, it helps somehow to understand what's going on, to give a reason why that person came here. Have you ever read also that book that is called Le Livre d'Anaël, the book of Anaël? Beautiful, beautiful book. If you're interested in reading it, beautiful book. Anaël was a girl in France in the 80s and 90s. She was a little girl who was thought to be totally like almost in a vegetable state because she didn't seem to have any interaction with the environment. But Baruch Hashem, at one point, they discovered a machine that was able to interpret the eyes, the blinking, and she was able to communicate with her family, and not only with her family, but with the world. And it's interesting how this machine was created, because it was created at the same time in different places in the world by different scientists. So really Hashem wanted that machine to exist at that time in order to help people in this situation to communicate. And she wrote that book and she explained her neshama. It's crazy. Rabbi Sitruk, who was a great rabbi of France, would come to consult with her. A lot of rabbanim from Israel would come to consult with her because she was in between two worlds, right? But she also tells, and she never learned Torah. So all that she had was from her being a little disconnected from this world and reconnected to her real neshama, who was still conscious of so many things. She had so much knowledge because she was very connected to her neshama and not that connected to her body. That was very limited. So it is very interesting also to read, like she explains, and her parents, who are still today doing incredible mitzvot, they are in Israel, they have the house of Anael, La Maison d'Anael, and it's an organization that helps many families. And the parents somehow explain that, like the fact to have been able to read the book and understand that their daughter, because also their brother had the same disease. So for the parents, having two kids with that disease was very, very difficult. But the fact to have the ability to understand the meaning, the reason behind, was a life-changing experience. And they accepted their pain in a different way. Of course, it was painful, but there was a meaning to it, right? So in order to thank Hashem, and we'll come back to that next week, Bezrat Hashem, but in order to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we need to understand the broader picture. Of course, it's painful. And so many things are painful. Even little things are very painful, right? I burnt my bread while I was helping with the homework. It happens. And it's painful. What? Well, I'm going to do, right? It's so annoying.
Dimanche, Sunday, I was putting like a bagel to defrost in the oven. I don't know what happened with the oven. It wasn't on board, but it burned. And the next day, I was trying to, again, yesterday morning to make lunchbox, so defrost bagel. So my daughter asked me, "Mommy, why did you defrost it?" I said, "In the oven." She said, "Oh, but today it didn't burn." Maybe it was cranky yesterday.
Exactly, it was cranky. For sure. It's true. So yeah, even that is a challenge. And even that we have to say thank you, right? It's easier to say thank you on a burned bread than anything else. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu should only give us and send us revealed good, because everything is for the good, but we only want revealed good, and give us Bezrat Hashem very small, insignificant challenges that we should grow on our own, that we don't need the exercise to learn our lesson, that we should grow on our own. Well, sorry. And be able to Bezrat Hashem see the reason behind all that very soon, the coming of Mashiach, and the resolution. Rabbi Abitbol gave a class on Le'alot, thanks to Salome, before Pesach, where he said, we all daven all day for so many things. Let's daven for one thing. Let's hit the origin of everything. Ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring Mashiach. Everything else will come along, right? So that's what we should hear, Bezrat Hashem, for all those parents who have lost their kids, that they be reunited with them. And for all the parents who suffer, for everyone who suffer, not only parents, but Bezrat Hashem, we should have Yeshua and only good news for all of us. Bezrat Hashem. See you next week for the second part of Grateful in Challenging Times, because we only went to the first part. Sorry.